Muscle Building Foods HQ.
Hey guys, what's up? Paul Niyama, Muscle Building Foods HQ.com. So I wanted to make a quick video. It's probably not going to be too quick, but I wanted to make a video in response to what the World Health Organization released last week about processed meats and cancer and red meats and all that. So I will go over everything, what they talked about. And I apologize in advance. I'm shooting this video on my webcam, not on my normal camera, because I want it to be in front of my computer so that I can read directly from their website, not misquote anything. So I apologize that the video quality is not as good as it normally is. But let's get into it. I want to try to keep this video short, but there is a lot of information to go over. I know a lot of people are freaking out about this, and they included red meat, and people are not wanting to eat as much. But let's go look at exactly what they said. This was released on October 26th, 2015, so last Monday. And they also did a few follow-up Q&As and statements as well. The report was released from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, and that is part of the World Health Organization. This report was from 22 experts from 10 countries, and they reviewed over 800 studies of cancer in humans. And their conclusion, after looking at all that data, there is sufficient evidence in humans that the consumption of processed meat causes colorectal cancer. And that's the big word there, causes. Normally when you see reports like this, it's associated with or linked to, which means it could be from something else. They use the word cause here, which means that there is, you need to watch your processed meats. Their definition of processed meats. They are meats that are transformed through salting, curing, fermentation, smoking, and other processes to enhance flavor or improve preservation. So this would include things like ham and bacon and hot dogs, beef jerky, deli meats, canned meats, smoked meats. Watch how much you eat of that. So this shouldn't be too revolutionary because you shouldn't have been eating all that stuff anyway. You should be eating real foods, real meats. They put this in group 1. This means that there is a strong evidence that supports that it causes cancer. Other things in group 1 is tobacco and asbestos, and people are freaking out about that as well. But group 1 mainly defines what the cause and effect relationship is, not the risk level. Statement directly from their website. The IARC classifications describe the strength of scientific evidence about an agent being a cause of cancer rather than assessing the risk level. This means that processed meats don't have the same risk level as tobacco or asbestos, but it does have that same cause and effect relationship according to what they concluded. According to the Global Burden of Disease Project, 34,000 deaths worldwide are attributable to diets high in processed meats. And what they determined for portion size, they estimated that every 50-gram portion of processed meats, which is not a lot, eaten daily, it will increase your risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. And that sounds pretty high to me. That sounds like you should be avoiding a lot of processed meats, because 50 grams is not a lot. I wasn't sure what this is. I'm in the US. We're weird. We use a totally different system than the metric system, but 50 grams is 1.76 ounces. Very small. That's like a bite for me. Normal portion size, 4 to 8 ounces. That's going to be 113 to 227 grams. So you're getting way more than their threshold that causes cancer by about 2 to 4 times just with a normal portion size. And that's in one meal. That 50 gram was a daily thing. So if you're eating processed meats for every meal, your risk is shooting up there. Be careful. I don't think that's too surprising, like I said. People shouldn't be eating too much processed meats anyway. Hope you're eating more real meats. And they also talked about red meats. Let's get into that because people are freaking out about that. I like red meats. Red meats have a lot of protein. Their statement, red meat is probably carcinogenic, but there is limited evidence to support that. So not a lot of evidence about red meat. Red meat is defined as mammalian muscle meat. Examples of this are beef, veal, pork, lamb, mutton, horse, goat. And they also said that red meat has nutritional value. So it's important to weigh the risks and the benefit. And in my opinion, there's not a lot of evidence that support the risks, especially when you take into account the Inuits, who is a tribe that ate a lot of meat. Their diet was primarily meat, and it was from mammals, a little different than we're used to. Whales, seals, walruses, bears, not stuff that we eat. And it's from not the kind of meat that we eat, because it's wild. It's not factory raised, pumped full of a bunch of chemicals. And they also didn't have a lot of processed sugar and processed carbohydrates. They ate pretty much just meat. They had very low incidence of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. So my assumption, and again, this is just an assumption, my assumption is that it is not because of the red meat. It's probably all the other chemicals that is associated in the with the meats, because they pump these cows and other animals full of these chemicals. I think that might have something to do with the increased risk for cancer. My other assumption, and again, this is an assumption, is that the sugars and processed crap that we eat has a lot to do with the increased risk for cancer as well. So I don't think it's the red meat itself, but again, even they say there's not a lot of evidence either way to support that. That's basically what I had to say about that. Let me just go through their website really quick just to make sure I didn't forget anything. Let me see. Cooking methods. Generally, high temperature cooking methods generate more compounds that contribute to carcinogenic risk, but the role is not fully understood yet. Is eating raw meat safer? There's no data to address this question in relation to cancer risk, because again, cooking will change that and increase some of the carcinogenic things in the meats. However, there's a separate question of risk of infection from the consumption of raw meats that needs to keep in mind. So again, going back to what they said about risk versus benefit. As far as what the Inuits did, again, they ate a lot of times they would eat their meats raw. I don't want to say most because I'm not sure, but I know a lot of times they did eat it raw, and that means that they didn't have the carcinogens from the cooking. That's not what we do, so again, different. And like I said, I don't think a lot of the bad stuff is from the meat itself. It's probably from something else. What types of cancer are linked or associated with eating red meat? And again, the word here is linked. They didn't use the word cause for red meat because there's not a lot of evidence that shows that. The strongest but still limited evidence for an association with eating red meat is for colorectal cancer. There's also evidence of links with pancreatic and prostate cancer. Again, they use the word link here, not cause, so it could be from the meat, it could be from something else. Let me see what else. Did I forget anything? Is the risk higher in children, elderly people, women, or men? Are some more people at risk? Again, there's not a lot of data on this as well. They asked the question, should I stop eating red meat? Eating red meat has known health benefits. Many national health recommendations advise people to limit intake of processed and red meat, which are linked to increased risk of death from heart disease, diabetes, and other illness. Should I just eat poultry and fish? Cancer risks associated with the consumption of poultry and fish were not evaluated. So it could be the same, could not be the same. Again, most of the stuff that we eat at the supermarket is going to have a bunch of chemicals. So the risk could be the same from that. Again, that is just an assumption on my part though. Should we be vegetarians? A lot of vegetarians love this report. I'm not in favor of it because it's hard to get protein. What their response was is that vegetarian diets and diets that include meat have different advantages and disadvantages for health. However, this evaluation did not directly compare with health risks in vegetarian and people who eat meat. That type of comparison is difficult because these groups can be different in other ways besides the consumption of red meat. And again, this goes back to them using the word linked and associated, because this is not a cause and effect relationship. Associations mean that both things are high, but it could be from that, it could be from something else other than what they are comparing. So that is pretty much all I wanted to cover. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative for you, and I hope it causes you to not freak out about what they said, because again, what they said isn't very earth-shattering. I think people already know that processed meats are bad, processed foods are bad. Doesn't say anything negative about red meat, except there could be some problems with that. So as far as my opinion now, red meats are fine unless there's evidence that comes out later that doesn't support that theory. But again, when you take the Inuits into account, it's probably not gonna happen, because they ate meat and they had very low incidence of cancer and other diseases. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna be back with my normal videos soon as possible. Until then, Paul Niyama, musclebuildingfoodshq.com.